as a young teenager, between the ages of 13 and 15, somewhere in there, I grew up in the countryside. And as a kid growing up in the countryside, a lot of times it's up to you to make your own fun. And that would oftentimes involve gravity and throwing things. And so one winter night, my cousin, my brother, and I decided it'd be a lot of fun if we could throw snowballs at cars. And the only problem was we lived so far out in the countryside that hardly any cars ever drove by. So we had to walk about 3 miles to get to a main road where we could actually have some cars to throw snowballs at. This field was about 10 to 15, maybe even 20 feet up above the road. So we're firing down on these cars as they're going by.
Eventually, your patience pays off.
It didn't take us long to get dialed in and get a really awesome system. My brother was to my left, and he was about 15 yards away from me, and I'm in the middle. And my cousin is on the right-hand side of me, and he's about 15 yards away too, somewhere in there. And so a car would come down the road, and my brother would throw a snowball, and then I would throw a snowball, and then my cousin would throw a snowball. So this car is potentially getting hit by 3 snowballs. And once we got dialed in, man, we were hitting them thunk, thunk, thunk. It was awesome.
I swear you're getting to be more of a hoodlum every day.
One car kind of like got sideways, and these roads were still snow covered too. So I guess we spooked them, and the car got a little sideways. And for us, that was great fun. We thought it was awesome. And we didn't really think anything of it as the car kind of righted itself and went about to bed.
Now cut it out, you kid. Cut it out!
Like, I don't know, about a minute, 2 minutes later, I hear my cousin just like, he's running past me. Doesn't say a word, just goes. And I'm like, bro, where are you going? We got cars to, hit with snowballs. And I look back in the direction he's running from, and I can only describe this like from my teenage memory. It's like this, 8-foot tall, snarling Yeti, drooling, just like fire-breathing hate, dressed up in a Carhartt jacket, and he's yelling at us, "Stop, police!" So at this point, I'm absolutely freaked out because this guy could very well be law enforcement, but out in the country, there's an equal chance that this guy could be just, someone's crazy banjo-playing uncle whose favorite movie is Deliverance. Either way, we weren't interested in going to the Slammer or sticking around to be extras in his fan fiction remake. So we start running for our lives. And so, he's snarling, "I'm gonna haul all your asses in." And we're running for the trees, and we make it to what we think is like the safety of the trees, only to find out like about 5 feet in that there's just a wall of jaggers. And so, we're running along, we're inside this tree line, and we're running along inside, there's nothing but jaggers. And then finally this guy is like close, and we have no choice. It's either stop and get caught or go through the jaggers. So we decided that we're going to go through the jaggers. Now, if you don't know what jaggers are, think of it as nature's barbed wire. So we're running through this, and as soon as I get in there, my hat gets ripped off, and it flies off, and I'm getting cut up on my head and like my face, and all of a sudden, so I got my arms up, and I'm running through this stuff. My cousin's in front of me, I'm in the middle, and my brother's behind me, and we're just going. And unfortunately for me, I had a down-filled jacket on. So I'm like leaving this trail of feathers. It's just like popped up everywhere, and I'm getting cut, and we're all bleeding, every single one of us. And then suddenly I lose sight of my cousin, and I cannot move. I'm like, what's happening? It took me like precious seconds to figure out what it was. So what had happened was a vine had like caught me across the chest. And my brother's like caught my heels too. And so he slams into me, and like now I'm like really into this thing. There's nowhere for me to go. I can't move. I'm thinking, okay, we're cooked. My cousin's fine. He got away. This guy's gonna be happy with at least catching 2 of us. So I decided I want to do the brotherly thing, and I grabbed my brother like I'm like some FedEx delivery guy throwing a box on a fragile, and I toss him underneath the vine. And he's pretty agile, and he just kind of rolls with it, gets up, and he's looking at him like, okay. But by doing that, it gave me just enough room to like be able to push this thing up. and over my head. And like, so it's sitting behind me. I look behind me just as I get this thing over me, and I see this hand reaching out from the darkness, and like, man, this dude like brushes my shoulder, like almost catches me. But thankfully, the forest was on our side that moment and showed some mercy, and the Yeti also gets stuck on this vine. So I'm running again, and I finally make it to this clearing. My brother and my cousin are there, and they're catching their breath. There's like, we're all exhausted, so I'm like, I gotta stop too, I gotta catch my breath. And then all of a sudden, you just hear this guy crashing through the Jaggers again. So he must have figured out, the vine situation. So he's like, coming out after us, and with, there's no words at this point. We decide that we're just gonna book it. And so we're running back through the Jaggers again, and this was just insane. It was just more and more Jaggers, more and more cuts. And so eventually we break through the last of the Jaggers out into another open field. Finally, we make it home, and we take a look at each other, and it just looks like we had fallen out of the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down. I mean, we are absolutely shredded, cut to ribbons. Looked like we'd gotten into a fight with a herd of cats and lost.
Rowdy kids. Troubled kids headed for trouble. Still a couple of years from real crime. But with destruction and violence their only outlet, they're on their way to it.